Good morning and welcome to SimWorld today, July 24th edition. We've got plenty to get to, including a reaction to the Beast Beast Coast Elite showcase from last night, which I thought was a very entertaining game. We go to overtime in that one, and we get LaShawn Cunningham as the MVP. Going to give you a couple takeaways from that one, but we're going to start with what we saw and what carried over in the discourse of last night, and that was the Steph versus Magic argument. And I mean, this is if you want to talk peak off-season conversation, Steph versus Magic, best point guard of all time, is peak off-season content. We're preloading or we're preluding legitimate basketball talk with our peak off-season content. I saw my friend Ricky Blaze, post his video last night, backing up his further claim for during the Beast Coast Elite Showcase broadcast of counting the numbers. And I'll start off by saying there's a part of that I disagree with Rick on, which I don't think is any surprise. Rick and I don't see eye to eye, but I think we actually see more eye to eye than we care to admit. This guy Steph Curry as a one on defense. I would disagree with that only by like 1 to 2 numbers. He's probably like a 2 or a 3. But here's the thing: Steph Curry's not the best point guard of all time. He's not because he's not a point guard. He's a 6'4" two guard. Draymond Green has always been the point guard. He's a point guard by size and definition, or by size, pretty much it. But he's a shooter. He is a shooting guard. He's not a shooting guard. He's a guard that shoots, and he's the best shooter of all time in the SWBA. And this is, I think, you can expand this to every single era. And the argument of LeBron versus MJ, the argument of Bill Russell and Wilt Chamberlain versus any other elite star, the stars of the 60s, 70s compared to the stars of the 80s, 90s compared to the stars of today. The game is different. If Magic Johnson were to enter the league today, he'd be playing small forward. If Steph Curry were to enter the league 20 years ago, 30, well now 40 years ago, he wouldn't be playing point guard. He'd be a two guard, and the game would be much different, and how he would play would be much different, obviously. But it's the same argument of LeBron versus MJ. They're different eras, and you'll hear everyone except LeBron pretty much talk about. I mean, even MJ talks about, well, if we're talking about rings, Bill Russell's got more, right? The eras of which players play in defines who they are as basketball players. Steph Curry is not a better point guard than Magic Johnson because he doesn't set the table with the ball in his hands. They tried to. They tried to do that prior to the Steve Kerr arrival. And let's add this. Steph Curry is still a really good table setter. I thought Rick's 7 mark for him was a pretty fair one. I mean, when Steph Curry, I think his points per possession when he's in an isolation or pick and roll is among the highest in the league every single of the past handful of years, minus probably the last couple, right? So his peak, he was very good, but he never wasn't asked to be that guy. He wasn't asked to be the guy with the basketball in his hand. Magic Johnson was. And the system in which the Warriors play is a shooting Steph Curry centric and Klay Thompson centric system. It is not a Magic Johnson ball in his hands, push and pace, score, Showtime Lakers basketball team. In the same way that it's not Oscar Robertson, be the point guard, Steve Nash, table set for us on an up-tempo team. That's not who Steph Curry is. If Steph Curry, the reason that the Warriors were interested in Chris Paul when they brought him in was because they needed somebody else to take the ball up. The reason they struggled and the reason that they pushed to get Jimmy Butler this past season was because they needed somebody else to have the ball in his hands because Steph Curry is not an on-ball creator. Why did a team like the 2016 Oklahoma City Thunder with just Russell Westbrook on their team and Victor Oladipo, he was pre-real takeoff version of himself. Why were they relevant? Because Russell Westbrook had the ball in his hands. Why did James Harden and the KD era Rockets? Why were they great? They had fantastic shooting and they had a phenomenal table setter in James Harden. Why have the Warriors not been good in these last couple seasons and struggled to get over the hump and in pursuit of a second star? Because Steph Curry is not a point guard. He is a guard that shoots in a league that he's size-wise decided to be, he hasn't, but the league has decided he is a point guard. He starts as the team's point guard. But this past season, played next to Brandon Pajemski so he could bring the ball up. They wanted to play, and they acquired Jimmy Butler to take the ball up because that is not what Steph Curry does. There's no argument here. Magic Johnson is the best point guard of all time because he's actually a point guard. And if we really wanted to have the debate, we should be debating Magic Johnson and Steve Nash as the best point guard and not Magic Johnson versus Steph Curry because they play a different position. Let's go to Beast Coast Showcase, Beast Coast Elite. This should be the easiest no-brainer when LaShawn Cunningham was named MVP, but that's who we got to talk about because I thought last night from LaShawn Cunningham as he prepares to head over to the Heartland Zombie Stars, he had a fantastic performance. He did a lot of things with the basketball. At 6'2", the vertical explosiveness that he had, he played like a 6'4" guard. 17 years old, I think, we can, he's listed at 6'2". We've seen what listed heights mean when guys get into college ranks and they actually put measuring, because right now it's just dudes putting down heights and calling it a day, or a coach putting down a height and calling it a day. LaShawn Cunningham is going to be a problem at the next level. And if he gets up to 6 foot, I think he can be a problem at 6'2". He reminds me a lot of Ja Morant. The vertical explosiveness, wiry frame. There were times when he took the ball off the dribble from the top of the key. I mean, we're talking 3 to 4 feet behind the 3-point line. And his just first step explosiveness was unguardable. He was blowing past defenders last night. Didn't matter who was on him on the other side. He was blowing past defenders with such ease to get to the rack. And then the verticality, again, it wasn't, typically you see a 6'2". You want to talk Steph Curry, right? I think 6'3", 6'4". When Steph Curry or Kyrie Irving gets into the paint, what are they? They're crafty, Kyrie especially, acrobatic, below the rim finishers. LaShawn Cunningham is not a below the rim finisher. He is a above the rim finisher that you typically see from guys that are 6'4", 6'5", and above, doing it at 6'2". On top of that, why did I watch LaShawn Cunningham last night and was I blown away, especially in his fourth quarter and overtime in which he carried his side of the brought the Elite Coast side back to this game, trailing in this one in the fourth quarter. Why? He shot the ball great from deep. I mean, this wasn't, one game. Let's not, I've come to the defense of Kai Killens, saying let's not have one game from Killens be something that concerns us in the long run. But, and so similarly, we're going to get really excited here today about the performance of LaShawn Cunningham. Let's not say it's everything from last night is transferable across the board as far as shooting goes. But his shooting down the stretch of that game, jump shooting, was fantastic. The verticality you're going to expect to stay there. The athleticism is always going to be present, right? So even if he was missing dunks, if he was not finishing through contact, you could still look at LaShawn Cunningham's game from last night and say, this guy has the ability off the bounce and vertically in the paint to contend right away. He could walk onto a college court right now and I think be a difference maker, even at 17 years old, okay? But what he also flashed was touch. Right? 3-point shot. That could come and go. Maybe he's not a great 3-point shooter, but he looked like one last night, right? The other part of his game that I absolutely loved, the finesse part of him in the paint. I think it was in overtime, drives into the paint, defense crashes on him. He's got 2 or 3 big men in his face. What does he do? Floater up over the top. The fact that he has not only the athletic ability to get into the paint easily, regardless of defender, finish hard at the rim, aggressively at the rim, regardless of defender. But the basketball IQ to say, this guy's, I want to dunk on him, but he's actually got position. Let me pull up and let me just drop this one over the top. That's something that we haven't seen Ja Morant been able to craft, right? And been able to master. That's a big part of why Ja Morant, injury question marks surrounding Ja Morant, because he always wants to put it down on somebody's head. Anthony Edwards always wants to put it down on somebody's head. LaShawn Cunningham showed he can do it, and he did do it. But he also showed the awareness of saying, let me pull up, let me pull off the gas. Let me take my Ferrari, and instead of running at 120, what if we take this turn at 70? and we just navigate through the woods, drop something in real light, and get it done. He had fantastic defense, rangy defender on the defensive side of the ball. What LaShawn Cunningham showed, I'll say this: I'm very happy he's 17 years old because if he was not, and we had to watch him in the prep legions for 2 seasons, I'd be disappointed. And that's no disrespect to any prep baller out there, but I want to see LaShawn Cunningham at the next level now because he's capable right now to be on a college court. I don't know who's offering him. I don't know where he's standing in the ranks. LaShawn Cunningham was the best player on the court, and to me the best player I've seen all summer with what he did last night in the Beast Coast Elite Showcase. He's a guy that should not spend another year after this one with Heartland Zombie Stars in the prep ranks, and there should be a very long list of colleges knocking at his door trying to get him to sign up. If you are Kentucky, if you are Duke, and you are sensing our blue blood status might be wavering, we lost a guy or we didn't replenish the coffers in the same ways we were supposed to, LaShawn Cunningham needs to be the first call right now because what he showed last night is the ceiling of a difference maker, not only at the collegiate ranks, but if that continues, the profile of a player that could compete very well at the next level. Another name that stood out to me as we wrap this thing up was Kane Bostic. Um, New York guy. I don't see him on any rosters. If I'm missing you, Kane, I apologize. But there was a lot of positives to Kane Bostic's game. He had a lot of great ability to create off the bounce. I thought he did a great job with the ball in his hands. But my gung ho-ness is not nearly as high because I thought he did not do a fantastic job finishing in the paint. But he was to me a guy on the B side that really stood out. Certainly not the only one, but for the most part, he showed, and it's very hard to do in these pick up a full roster pickup games where there's very little organization to it. That's why I thought LaShawn Cunningham succeeded so well because guys wanted to get him the basketball and he showed it. Kane Bostic had the aggressiveness to take the basketball and put it in his hands and get things done. He did a good job of that. Where he faltered only was that he didn't finish well in the paint. There were a couple drives. I think one was against Jabari Banks, the other was against Malik Parks, where he just didn't quite have the lift and the ability to score the contested shots in the same way that LaShawn Cunningham was doing on the other end. I'm not aiming to compare the two, but just as a comparison. Um, if he can clean that up, he had a really nice ability to get into the paint, which is not easy to do. I mean, there's foundations, right? If you're a good free throw shooter, we should feel confident that you can become a good 3-point shooter. If you are good with the basketball, capable of getting yourself into the hard to get but high percentage areas, that's the foundation of being a good finisher at the rim. You got to be able to get to the rim. Kane Bostic showed an ability, and it wasn't a beeline, straight line explosiveness like Cunningham. Look, Cunningham was doing very little basketball moves. He wasn't using screens. He was just one step gone. Kane Bostic had a nice. There was one right wing drove in, spun back to the middle of the court. I think he was guarded on this one by Malik Parks, and then immediately goes up with it. Now, what he didn't do was finish that bucket, but he got himself a very high value look that he just didn't execute on. You like that the foundation is there to get to the hard to reach spots. The next spot for Bostic is going to be piecing together the ability to finish. And I thought Kane Bostic showed the first part. Gets to the second part. If he executes there, I think he's a really nice piece. And again, if I'm just completely missing this dude, which is possible, but Kane Bostic not on any rosters, should he be? I think he should be, and wouldn't be surprised if we see his name in the unsigned hype tournament at the end of the season, um, in mid August in Denver, because I thought he had a really nice game, just didn't finish at the rim. That's our show. We're back Friday morning here on SimWorld TV. Also, July 24th. Shout out to my mother. Happy birthday, Mom. We'll see you tomorrow here on SimWorld TV. Only place you can see the game, be the game.